Got it.
Okay, welcome everyone to ANC 34G's regularly scheduled meeting. This is the second, fourth Monday, as a matter of fact, in January. We meet on the second and fourth Mondays of each month. I'm Randy Speck. I'm the chair of ANC 34G. And we'll begin by introducing all of the commissioners. Peter, you want to go next?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Peter Gosselin. I'm the commissioner who our neighborhood, our community is broken up into various districts, and each of us represents a piece of it. I represent the part of the neighborhood that is the west side of Connecticut back to 41st Street, from the Western Avenue border with Maryland and the Chevy Chase Circle to Military with a small peninsula to the east. Welcome.
Thank you. I forgot to indicate that I represent ANC 34G03, and that's the area basically between Nebraska, Utah, and Broad Branch. John, you want to go next?
Yes, I am the commissioner for ANC NSND 02, which has the eastern border on Oregon, the western border on Utah. Our southern border is Military, and our northern border is just below Chestnut.
Chaz?
Yeah, I'm Charles Cadwell. I'm the new commissioner here. This is my 14th day as a volunteer ANC commissioner. I'm in the 34G07, which is the southwest corner of this district, bordered on the west by Reno Road, on the north by a combination of Military, Kanawha, and Jocelyn, and then on the southeast by a little slip of Nevada and Nebraska up to Reno. Because I've volunteered for this and haven't run it for a full election, if any audience here are in my single member district, I'd love to hear from you, because otherwise I have no way of discovering who you are and talking to you.
Okay, Connie?
Hello, good evening. My name is Connie Chang. I am the commissioner for District Number 5, which is the east side of Connecticut, the community center library up to Western, and then on the east side is Broad Branch Road, and then it comes down to Legation and hooks into like a little small island where it's bounded by Nevada and Chevy Chase Parkway. Nice to meet everyone, and good evening.
Michael?
I am Michael Zeldin. I'm 3G04, which includes Lafayette Elementary School, goes pretty much from the end of Lafayette Elementary School there all the way over to Western, and then between Utah and Broad Branch.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Gore, and I'm the commissioner for ANC 34G01. And our single member district runs from Western Avenue down Oregon over to Beach, then comes up through Barnaby Woods, goes past Pinehurst Circle, and hooks over to Utah a little bit, and then back around. Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we have all 7 commissioners here tonight, so we have a quorum and can conduct business. We're again meeting virtually, as we have for almost 2 years now. And that means we're on a Zoom webinar. The commissioners will all have audio and video. We will elevate attendees to become panelists on occasions during the meeting, whenever that becomes a desirable thing to do. And so if you would please, if your name is not reflected accurately on the list of participants, then please change your name so that we can recognize who you are and recognize you if we want to make you a panelist. The meeting is being recorded, and so we will have the recording available on our website, our YouTube channel, beginning tomorrow, probably. Okay, the first thing we have to do is to adopt the agenda. The agenda has been posted on our website and on various listservs. I have 2 modifications to the agenda. The first one is to remove the discussion and possible vote on the application for a public space permit to extend an existing alley behind 6451 and 6455 Barnaby Streets to allow access to the rear of 6455 Barnaby Street. We've decided that that's not quite ripe for our discussion tonight, and Lisa has asked that we postpone that until our next meeting, which we will do. And then it will be heard by the Public Space Committee, presumably at their February meeting. The other change to the agenda is to add a discussion and possible vote on the testimony at the Council's Committee of the Whole roundtable hearing on vacant and blighted properties. And when we get to that point in the agenda, I will describe why that has come up at the last moment, and we didn't have an opportunity to put it on our agenda earlier. So with those two modifications, any other modifications we need to make to the agenda? Okay, with that, those two modifications, I move that we adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Many seconds. All those in favor? 0. Okay, thank you. All right, I have several.
May I just
Pardon?
add one thing? On
Yes,
on
Michael.
6455 Barnaby, the reason it's being delayed is Lisa and I, Lisa particularly, have been waiting to hear from DDOT. We're waiting on their sort of final decision about what they're going to do. So it's not yet ripe for us to take it up because we don't know what the decision is. So we can't vote yay or nay on a non-made decision. So as soon as we hear from them, we'll take it back up.
Okay. All right, I have several announcements. The first item on the agenda is commissioner announcements, and there's some that are significant. So the first one is about ward redistricting. As we will all recall, we went through a process of the council setting the ward boundaries, and that's now been done. But each ward is currently in the process of setting new boundaries for ANCs and for single member districts. You heard us describe the boundaries of our current single member districts. Well, those are probably going to have to change because the population has shifted in one way or another. And so you can't have more than 2,100 people in your single member district or less than 1,900. And so there are going to have to be some shifts that will be made. Each ward has appointed a task force to make redistricting recommendations. The Ward 3 task force is chaired by Jerry Mallitz, who was a former ANC commissioner in 34G05, Connie's single member district. And the task force has a website that it will be noted in our minutes that provides a great deal of demographic and other data about the ward and the current ANCs and identifies the task force members. It also describes the processes that they will follow, including meeting dates through the end of March. And all of those meetings are publicly available. You can attend any of those meetings you wish. The Ward 4 task force held its first meeting yesterday, and the task force, one of the task force members is Abe Clayman, who is a former ANC 34G01 commissioner, predecessor to Lisa Gore. The Ward 4 task force it has a meeting schedule that is available on its website, which is JaniceWard4.com/redistricting. And all of those meetings are going to be open to the public as well. And comments will be specifically sought at the meetings on February 6th and March 8th. And any resident can provide input by email at ward4redistricting@dccouncil.us. The task force may also provide presentations to ANCs if we're interested in doing that. Each of the task forces is expected to provide a report to the council by April 1st, and the council will hold hearings on ANC and SMD boundaries in April. The council's redistricting subcommittee will vote on the ANC and SMD boundaries bill in May or June, and then the final vote in the council will be in June. There's additional information available on the council's redistricting subcommittee website. That's the Alyssa Silverman's website. Okay, any comments from any commissioners about that? That's likely to affect us somewhat directly. Lisa?
Yes. Do we know if any of the single member districts in our ANC need adjusting?
Yes, they do.
Which one?
All of them. all of them are on the high side right now. And certainly all those in Ward 4. I'm not absolutely certain about Ward 3, but all of them have, and it's also our whole ANC is over its allotment, maximum capacity for 7 commissioners. So it's going to have to, the ANC is either going to have to take in some additional population from other ANCs so that we could have 8 commissioners. That's a possibility. Or if we keep 7 commissioners, we'll have to cede some of the population in our ANC to another ANC. So there will have to be changes.
Okay, can we put, so you said the Ward 4 task force is willing to present to ANCs?
Yes.
What about Ward 3?
I suspect they would too. I mean, Jerry would certainly be willing to do that.
Okay, because I would recommend putting both of them on the agenda at some point in
Okay.
time.
We'll need to do that before April 1st, certainly, because that's when they are going to be making their final recommendations. So I would suggest maybe late February, our second February meeting or our first March meeting probably would be best.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
just so we're not caught flat-footed.
Yeah, I will pursue that.
Thank you.
Okay. The next announcement I have is with regard to engagement software. For 3 years, the ANC has been advocating with the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commission and the council to provide commissioners with tools that would enable us to better communicate with our constituents. And following our recommendation in 2019, the council appropriated money in the FY 2020 budget for the OANC to acquire exactly that kind of engagement software. Unfortunately, the OANC has not contracted for those services, but it looks like they may be on the verge of doing so. We believe that ANC 34G will be one of the ANCs that will get to use this engagement software that's provided by a company called Citizen Lab. We shouldn't consider this to be a panacea for solving all of our communications and outreach efforts, but it is an important tool, and it could help us on some of the current issues that are facing us, like the small area plan and the Maret BZA application. Will enable us to reach out to more people in the community and touch and find out what they really want. We will soon have more information on how everyone can participate in this process. It's supposed to, their contract date that they're shooting for is February 1st. Lisa, is your hand still up from the previous?
Yep, sorry.
Okay, this is something we've been really advocating for a long time, and it looks like it might finally be coming to fruition. The next announcement I have is with regard to Beach Drive. I saw there was a question on the listserv this morning about Beach Drive and when it might be reopened, or when some decision might be made on vehicle traffic on Beach Drive. So I recontacted the National Park Service. I'd been told by them that they would have an environmental assessment that would be issued this month, and that it would then go through a comment period before they could make any changes. Well, this morning I got an email back from the superintendent for Rock Creek, who reported that we have encountered a delay. The draft EA, environmental assessment, must be reviewed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service due to the park's threatened and endangered species. We are trying to get it through review as soon as possible. She said, I'm not sure how long it will take. So that process with regard to Beach Drive is postponed still further. And we don't have an answer on that.
Okay. Just like comment on that, Randy, I am glad that they're doing the environmental assessment. I think that's really important to at least conduct it. So
yep.
I want them to take their time and do it right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Well, and they clearly are doing that and getting other agencies involved as well.
Yeah.
The next announcement I have is with regard to the WMATA budget and the E6 bus. There was an announcement by WMATA today that they have scheduled they released their budget for FY23, and that's available on WMATA's website. And the hearing on that budget is scheduled pretty quickly. They don't give us a lot of lead time on it, but it's scheduled for February 8th at 6 p.m. at WMATA's headquarters at 600 Fifth Street Northwest. They also will make arrangements for video participation in that meeting. And so it's not, right now they're planning on doing it in person, but they could change that based on the conditions of COVID. The proposed budget includes a number of fare and service changes, and that's available also on WMATA's website, wmata.com/budget. And the details of how to participate in the hearing, if you want to register, are also available on WMATA's budget website. Importantly for our neighborhood, the proposed budget does not restore the E6 bus service. There are a number of routes that are restored or expanded. The E6 is not among them. There is a survey that you can take to answer a bunch of questions about various bus services, but they've had very, very little on there that lets you say anything about the E6 bus. Toward the end, there is one or two questions. One that asks what is the bus line that is nearest to you, and that has the E6 on it. And then what bus do you ride most frequently, which also has the E6 bus on it. There are also ways to submit comments in that survey mechanism as well. You can just opt not to take the survey, but instead to submit comments. Given the importance of the E6 bus in our neighborhood and how we have advocated for this for many, many, many years, we need to have a strategy for how we're going to interact with WMATA and emphasize to them once again how important the E6 bus is for us. And certainly I will reach out to the listservs and the various other places to make sure that people are aware of the upcoming budget hearing and the opportunity for them to submit comments. But I'm hoping that we can get just the maximum number of people who rely on the E6 bus to fill out the survey, or better yet, submit comments supporting restoration of the E6 bus.
Okay.
That's all the announcements I have. Any other commissioner announcements or questions about this? Yes, Connie?
I was just going to say that we have a card table now at the Chevy Chase Community Center with all of our names on it, plus our email addresses. I put that up. It's, if you enter in the only entrance right now is across from the playground. If you enter there, it's on the left side before the entrance to the offices. So that card table is there. I don't have a box for people to leave us messages. I could do that, but there's flyers of events that we may be holding and any other important events. We will try to make copies and leave it there. So we're encouraging the community to go there. When they go visit, they'll see it. There's a big banner. It's quite obvious that it's ours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, for organizing that.
Yeah, it's,
I wanted to, my announcement, hold on, I'm getting my little script up here. If anyone else has an announcement, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
My announcement is just regarding the ECC field process, and that we are continuing with our efforts on that. We're continuing to consult with our advisory group. We have some meetings scheduled by the ANC, 3 separate meetings covering 3 different aspects of the program. And also on Wednesday and Friday of this week, Maret is having office hours, one on their 3D demonstration of the site, and the second on the transportation plan. And we are continuing to update our own ANC website on that. So just go to ANC3G.org and hit on the task force and issues tab and go down to the Maret field, and we have all the details and all the schedules on there. So that's it.
Thank you, John. Peter?
I have 2 announcements. One, administrative one that the commission has heard repeatedly, which is that we're starting a new year. I would appreciate if all commissioners and all community announcers give me text before or after the meeting for the minutes. It would be a huge help. More substantively, I want to talk to the commission about an incident that occurred in my SMD last week and seek your permission and advice about what we might do about it. Last Wednesday, there was an arrest of somebody on a first-degree murder arrest warrant at the Kenmore. In the course of the arrest, a firearm was thrown out the window of the apartment on the north side and discharged. No one was hurt, so that's the good news. I'm led to believe, and my information is still not complete, but that between the time of the homicide, which was September 18th, and the arrest last Wednesday, the suspect applied for an apartment at the Kenmore under the Housing Choice Voucher Program, and got that apartment. The problem here, and we have a great resource on this commission in Commissioner Gore, who only recently retired from the IG's office at HUD, and I'll defer to her on what the law is here. But I would like to, on behalf of the commission, set up a meeting with apartment building managers about their duties to do the background checks that are, I believe, and Lisa, you correct me here if I'm wrong, I believe are required by law. We want to make progress on affordable housing. One of the places we want to make progress, and one of the first places we can make progress, is in being sure the Housing Choice Voucher Program is well used. But well cuts both ways. We need to have people come to the community to provide new diversity. We need the community to be safe. And doing these checks is important to that second end. So I hope I can get the commission's approval to set up such a meeting with apartment landlords and apartment managers along Connecticut. I mean, you could, we don't need to make it a formal resolution.
I think that's a good idea, Peter. It sounds like a reasonable thing to do. Lisa, do you have any comments about this?
No, I've talked to Peter about this. We talked about it extensively, and we had been trying to forge a relationship with the management agent and also the housing authority. And I think we'll probably get more traction with the management agent. But it is really important that communities have a good understanding, what I was telling Peter, of those rules. And we really do need to kind of figure out what's going on here with especially this particular situation.
Okay. Any other commissioner announcements? Peter, I think you should go ahead with that. That sounds good.
Good, we'll do.
Okay. Community announcements. If you have some announcements to make, Dee or Matthew or anyone else, Amir has his hand raised. I have not made you a co-host, Lisa, so let me do that right now.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to make Amir a panelist. While we're waiting for Amir, I see that Dee has just said, remember the council budget and performance oversight hearings are happening now. We're aware of that. I'm going to be talking about at least one of those budget oversight hearings later in our agenda.
Can I go?
Okay, Amir, go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Amir Guravantab, and I'm the Ward 3 liaison for Mayor Bowser's office. and I'm here to provide some updates from the city, starting with COVID. As announced many times previously, our vaccine mandate known as VaxDC has started up last weekend, and it applies to most establishments where you'd be sitting down for an extended period of time. So restaurants, entertainment, conference rooms like that, not including retailers or hair salons and nail salons, just as a quick recap. And another reminder that there are 6 senior wellness centers that serve as seniors only places to pick up rapid COVID tests. There's none in Ward 3, but there is one in Ward 1 at Bernice Fontenot and Hattie Holmes in Ward 4. We're currently working with DACL to get more, and I believe that's on the agenda tonight.
Yep.
Additionally, Mayor Bowser has announced the opening of 6 full-fledged COVID centers in the city. Ward 3 and 4 are in the works to have one as well. And at these COVID centers, residents can get vaccinations, booster doses, take-home rapid tests, and walk-up PCR testing. Moving on, leaf collection has ended, and Christmas tree pickup is now ongoing until February 28th. But please let me know if you notice any leaf piles or Christmas trees in your areas that need attention. I can get that escalated. As a reminder, I'm still outside in different areas of Ward 3 on Tuesday and Thursday, doing sweeps, looking for anything out of order that needs addressing. So if you have any issue that you notice in your area that you want me to handle, I can definitely stop by. So please contact me about that. Moving on to some updates from the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. The Great Streets Retail Small Business Grant is now online until January 31st with applications due online. A Great Street includes Wisconsin Avenue and Connecticut Avenue, the entire stretch of those. So businesses on those streets can apply. And DEMPED also announced today the reintroduction of the Bridge Fund intended to help small businesses that earned $5 million in revenue or less and experienced at least a 30% reduction in revenue during the public health emergency related to COVID. The Bridge Fund is a non-competitive grant program that will award eligible small businesses with consideration to core expenses, economic distress, location, length of revenue generating operations, and district resident employment. The following conditions also allow for priority review. Businesses with no more than $2.5 million in revenue each in 2019, 2020, and 2021, and businesses that did not receive an award from the Paycheck Protection Program, so those are the PPP loans. That application period is open until Friday, February 25th at 5 p.m., and I'll be posting more information in the chat. Additionally, I want to thank Dee for reminding me about this council budget. We have 1 day or 2 days of notice, but if anyone in this call would like to have their voice heard as far as the budget process, which since COVID is now being held in a virtual town hall, feel free to send me a video of yourself introducing your name, your ward, and what your budget related question is. And it can be anything really, any point of clarification or any question as it relates to the budget. And if you send that to me by tomorrow night, I can send it up and your voice may be actually heard in the town hall and directly addressed. So with that, I can take any questions.
Peter?
Okay, checking on the mail again.
Okay,
Peter?
I
You're
think you're
muted, Peter.
Sorry, 2 questions. On the COVID centers, I believe the mayor's press release said that the Ward 3 center would be open by this week. Do you know, 1, when it's going to open, and 2, where?
I think the press release said that about 5 and 6. So 5 opened, 5 is opening tomorrow and 6 open today. The press release stated that 3 and 4 will be having theirs open soon. They haven't announced a date for that yet. I think they're still working on getting a venue, but yeah, so the ones that are announced this week were 5 and 6.
Okay, I'll go back to the press release. So with regard to leaf pickup, there on the listserv, there have been a number of people saying the 3900 block of military has not been cleared. And now, and I posted something saying, let me know some addresses, and then it sounded like it was cleared, but as recently as late yesterday afternoon, people were saying the 3700 block of Kanawha has not been cleared. So
Okay, thank you for that.
okay, that's it.
Michael?
Yes, hi, Amir. Just to remind you that Western between Tennyson and Upland has not been picked up for leaves also.
Okay, thank you. I did escalate that, but let me do that again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. They picked up Christmas trees and they didn't do the leaves. So it was sort of, thought they were all there at one time. They could gather it both, but alas. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up by anyone who wants to be recognized. So we'll go on with the other items in our agenda then.
Randy?
Yes, Lisa.
Matthew is on.
Oh, I didn't see Matthew. Was interested in speaking. Okay, go ahead, Matthew.
Hey y'all, good evening. This is Matthew from the council member's office here in Ward 4. I will drop my contact info in the chat in case you don't have it. Not going to speak long, just wanted to let you guys know, if you don't already know, we're doing our second round of Listen as We Climb, which is a listening tour. We're going around having virtual meetings with every neighborhood, pretty much unstructured space for you to talk to the council member about what you care about and how things are going, giving an opportunity for y'all to give us feedback as an office or talk to us about what you want us to focus on this coming year. So I'll drop a link in the chat. The meeting for your neighborhood is next Thursday, which I believe is February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. hosted on Zoom. I'll drop a registration link in the chat. And we hope you all will join us to share your thoughts about how things are going in your neighborhood. The other thing is I'll drop a link in the chat for performance oversight that Dee mentioned is happening now. I have a link that is a kind of a graphic of all the upcoming hearings and a link that has instructions for how you can participate. I think my big push here, honestly, y'all, is we really need as many neighbors as possible to participate in these hearings. For many, it's phenomenal if you can actually show up to testify, but if you can't do that because it's not accessible, we hope that instead you can at least submit written testimony or reach out to our office to make sure that the council member knows your questions or comments or frustrations or celebrations for different agencies so that we can work it into our talking time during performance oversight hearings. But otherwise, thank you for your time.
Hey,
Thank you,
Matthew. I'm sorry.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Is there any discussion of, I just want to throw something out there for the council member and you guys, and I know you know the frustration, but it is really difficult in terms of not only prepping the testimony, but then attending the council hearings and the wait time. And I would really highly encourage the council to come up with some kind of system, especially with, us being in COVID. We're in 2 years into COVID. Who knows, we're going to go back to physical hearing. But, you can be waiting to testify for a hearing pretty much all day long. There just has to be a better mechanism to notify people, maybe when a panel is done, notify them like when 2 panels ahead of them are going so they can get prepared. But if the council is really serious about community involvement, I highly encourage every council member to get serious about community participation and come up with some kind of way to make it easy for people. It's just overwhelming. Parents have kids, parents are working, and you do need that input from the community. But it just has to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I'll be curious, Dee, if you're listening and you want to put your thoughts in the chat. I think highly recommend, first of all, can't agree more. Thank you for raising it. I think that I would recommend that you, reach out to us by email just to put that in writing and also include the chairman's office. I think some of these process related issues really there needs to be momentum and pressure continuing and ongoing about a lot of those things, because I think you're absolutely right that to ensure full access and participation and particularly focused on how we have equitable inclusion across the district, we really need more equitable on-ramps for folks to participate in that particular civic engagement process. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Please write it as a follow-up email to us and include the chairman's office. And I'm curious if Dee has other thoughts or I'm sure that from Councilmember Che's perspective, you know, for the Committee on Transportation and the Environment, that would be, you know, a very useful tool.
And the best pressure is going to come internal. So the best pressure is going to come from the council members. If the council members band together and just say, I'm fed up with the community being treated that way, then maybe the chair will do something about it.
As someone who has been through this process for many, many, many years, I've got to say this now is so much an improvement over having to go down to the Wilson building and sit all day, which I have done, all day in a hearing room waiting to be called. And now at least you're at home and you can work on other things in the interim, which was not possible before. And so it's a big improvement. I agree with you, Lisa, though, that it does eat up a tremendous amount of time to just waiting. And some of the committees are better than others about providing lists of witnesses in advance. And so you can sort of see when you're going to come up. But that helps, but it's still not a perfect solution.
Yeah. And I had a group that actually took it upon themselves to text the witnesses. They sent out an email, extremely organized. This was a community group. Yeah. Sent out an email, letting the witnesses know when they would text, and they basically texted us, I think, a panel ahead. So if you were on panel 2, they texted you at the start of panel number 1. And I think Matthew hit on a key thing. I mean, for us that are kind of sitting at home, it's an annoyance, but you look at in terms of the equity issue, the people that we also really need to hear from are people that are working 9-to-5 jobs, that are forced to go in, you know, people at the grocery store, school teachers, where they can't do that. You know, we're having a time or somebody texting saying, hey, be ready in probably, you know, 30, 35 minutes would probably make it more easier for them to testify and want to be involved in this process. So I agree. I mean, it is obviously much better than going down to the Wilson building, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And I think the onus is on the council to help us do that. I mean, I think people have made this issue or made the council aware of it. And I think it's up to them to kind of start taking a lead on that.
I wanted to jump in. I think I agree completely with both Randy and Lisa. I just had an experience at a BZA hearing where when I registered to testify, I wasn't really testifying, but I was a part of the, you know, listening for the ANC. They called me a half an hour before. I was told that they would call me to let me know when they were ready because they were worried that they were going to go over time. And so I was called. I was able to get off a different call, knowing that I would just wait. I didn't have to wait from the beginning is what I'm saying, the original time. Yeah. This worked really well. I was able to get onto a different call, but you know, we're still a lag time and I was nervous. So I got off probably a little too soon, but I do think this is a courtesy, and there's no way that you can stay for 8 hours waiting for your time to testify. And that's just, I think there's disrespect there for other people's time, the people who are waiting to testify. So we should do something about it. And I'm happy to send an email to, I mean, Lisa, if you want to, I could certainly write a few sentences about my BZA experience, which was great.
I was going to say, let's do that. Let's write it from the BZA perspective and the equity perspective, and let's send it to all and encourage them to get on it.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Last thing I'll just say there is I'll be particularly excited when the Councilmember Lewis George is able to get a committee of her own, because we'll have a lot of power to enforce and create those kind of practices. And I think it's certainly something we're trying to do in our more informal gatherings that we're hosting, to create, using the tools we have available, whether it's online or in person, processes for deep engagement. So we appreciate y'all's advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, is there anyone else we have who's raised their hand and wishes to make an announcement? Okay. All right, we'll go to the substantive part of the agenda then. The first item is discussion and possible adoption of special meeting dates to consider Maret's Board of Zoning Adjustment application to build sports fields at the Episcopal Center for Children. John Higgins and I have been working on this a lot, and John's made the announcement earlier that we're going to hold 3 special meetings that will be devoted entirely to Maret. They're not going to be part of our regular meeting schedule, but will be separate and apart from that. We thought this was necessary in order to make sure that we gave all the parties an opportunity to make their case and to hear from all of the district agencies that are reviewing the application. And then finally, we want to be able to prepare whatever position the ANC is going to take, put that out on our website and available to the community for anyone to see and discuss, and then have a special meeting that will be just devoted to looking at that proposed resolution. And so the dates that we have picked are first February 1st, which will be presentation and discussion with the parties, and we're going to let all the parties have their opportunity to make their case there. And the agenda for that will be posted tomorrow because we have to post all of the agendas 1 week in advance. So we'll post an agenda for that tomorrow. And then on the 16th, we're trying to arrange presentations and discussions with DDOT, DOEE, and Urban Forestry on Maret's applications. And we've invited all of them to come to that meeting on the 16th and be available to answer questions from the commissioners and from the community about their review of the application. And the agenda for that meeting will be posted on February 9th. All of those will be posted on our website, and they'll be on various listservs and Nextdoor and other places as well. And finally, the meeting for discussion of the proposed resolution will be on February 24th. The reason we've chosen that is the ANC has to present its case to, or whatever its recommendations are, to the BZA 1 week in advance of the hearing. And the hearing's on March 9th. So we would have to submit our views to the BZA on March 2nd. And so what we're going to have the meeting on the 24th to consider the resolution. We'll probably have the draft resolution out at least several days before that. And then the commission will discuss the draft resolution. We may make changes to it. We'll take comments from the community on it. And then we'll make whatever modifications we need to make before filing it with the BZA on March 2nd. So this is the schedule that we've prepared. I just want to let all the community know this, and the commissioners have all been apprised of this for some time so that we can make our planning for it. But this is the way we think is the most orderly way to hear from the parties and from the community and from the agencies who are making the review. Any commissioners have any other comments or?
So Randy, is expectation that we would vote on it at that meeting or subsequent?
Yes, we vote on it at that meeting. And we'll probably have some changes to the draft resolution as a result of that. And they may not all be written down at that point, but we can vote on it, and whatever conditions we're going to recommend to the BZA can be included there. Okay, anybody else who's raised their hand on that? Don't see anyone. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Michael has his hand.
Michael.
Michael, I didn't see him. Yes.
It's all right. Just one quick question with respect to these meetings. Do we have, and maybe you said it and I just didn't hear it, do we have a process by which meeting by meeting, we're going to determine who will speak when?
That will be in the agenda. John and I tossed around some ideas about the agenda today, and I'll be circulating those to commissioners tomorrow before I post the agenda. But yes, the plan is to have all of that in the agenda.
Okay. Because I know some are asking for specific dates, so I just wanted to
Well,
make sure that
we'll
we're
have,
mindful of that as we can be.
right. We'll have the agenda. I did run these dates by the parties some time ago, but, and the basic process that we were going to follow. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Randy, just one more thing.
Mhm.
I'm happy to put the dates up on the dedicated Maret ECC page, but I need just a little bit of language just to make sure that I have it right. So I have the 3 dates, and I can,
I'll send it.
Okay. So I'll just post it up there so we have it, and then I'll make sure that when the agenda comes out, it's right on the homepage under
Right.
once you. Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is with regard to grant applications. And for those of us who follow the ANC closely, we heard the presentations at our last meeting on 2 grant applications. The ANC's procedures for grants spell out exactly how we're supposed to handle these. We have a presentation at one meeting, and then at the next ANC meeting, we vote on that, have any discussion we have about it, and then vote on those grant applications. Just for reminding us all, the criteria for approval that are in our grant application procedures are: first, the grant will serve in part or in whole the public and or the public good within the geographic boundaries of ANC 34G. Second, it will address one or more of the Commission's grant priorities. And among the grant priorities are arts, culture, history, education. Another one is Friends of Parks and Recreation Projects. Another one that could be relevant here is a program-related training and or equipment purchase. And finally, the grant will serve the largest number of ANC 34G residents or class of residents, for instance, aged, youth, homeless, etc. And so the 2 applications that we're looking at tonight, and typically we don't need any further presentation from the applicant, but it's just a matter of our discussing it, is the Chevy Chase Citizens Association application for $2,000 to upgrade and migrate its website to the Wild Apricot platform. And we heard from Robert Gordon at our last meeting about that. Are there any comments or questions or anything anyone wants to raise about this grant before we consider it? John?
I second Connie's comment. I should get a copy of the written application.
Oh,
just
okay.
for the treasurer's report in issuing any grant. So for both of these, I'd appreciate it if you could send those forward to me when they're.
Okay, I think they're both on the, we have a mechanism that they appear on the Google Doc, I think. I think it's a Google Doc. But I can make sure you get them, John.
Okay.
Peter?
Well, I don't know if we take this one at a time. I think both of them.
Let's take them one at a time, but
Okay,
first
well,
one.
then let's talk about the Chevy Chase Citizens Association. This organization, the ANC, should be sympathetic to the need to improve websites, given our struggles with all sorts of things electronic. The association has done a yeoman's job in presenting useful panels, helping as we have, trying to help with the small area planning process. I think it's a worthy application, and I think we should approve it. I would just say that I wish we could have one of our own grants to work on our own website.
We can budget to do that.
Right.
I will just note too that I know we all have frustrations with our website, and Connie's doing a wonderful job of managing now in the absence of having an executive assistant. But
Yeah.
Everyone who looks at our website from outside, other ANC commissioners, people in the DC government, they are all impressed. because ours is much, much better than most. And so I see you shaking your head, Peter, I know, but it has a lot more information on it than most of the ANC websites. I think there are 7 or 8 ANCs that don't have any websites at all. So that we really need to have some help for all the ANCs so that they can all have a decent website. And that was one of the things that came up at the OANC oversight hearing that I attended last week. And so it's something that really they need to be addressing on a citywide basis. Connie?
Yeah. No, I thought Robert Gordon has sent a message. I'm thinking if we're going to consider the applicant, we should probably raise them up as a panelist for any questions. Can you do that, or what do you think?
Well, in the past, and I will go back to our fearless leader from before, Alan Beach. Alan always said that our grant procedures did not allow for further presentations by the, and that's true. We're supposed to get all the questions answered at the first meeting so that we can just discuss it and have a vote at this meeting. If the commission wants to hear from Robert on this, that's fine. But I just think it's, we got a lot of information from him last time, and I'm not sure that there's anything more we need.
I call the question.
Good for you. Good for you.
Okay.
Call the question.
Okay. I would move that we approve the grant for $2,000 to upgrade the CCCA's website. The second, all those in favor? Okay, that's approved then. Okay, the second application is for Potomac Appalachian Trail Club for $1,989 to purchase materials to improve a trail, and it's the Western Ridge Trail at Rock Creek Park. I specify Western Ridge because that is specifically within the boundaries of our ANC. Are there any discussion about that, Peter?
I just want to endorse this one too. As a Vermonter who was brought up on the Appalachian Trail, I've seen the trail in places where it is not as heavily used here, and it needs work even in those places. The trail in this park is so heavily used that it is any upkeep, any improvement is a help. So I endorse this one as well.
Michael? You're muted. You're muted, Michael.
They've asked for a very specific amount of money, which gives them no wiggle room. Can we just approve it for $2,000 so that at least they have $150 in case there's a supply chain issue?
Well,
I don't know if we're allowed to do that.
we're going to approve it for more than what they asked for. I think that would be all right.
It's only $11.
No.
Yeah, it's not
$1,989.
$11. So we can.
So I move that we approve it for $2,000.
Someone could get a Starbucks coffee.
Is there a second? Well, that's not approved though. That's not approved.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Very clear.
Yes.
That's not approved.
No, you can get another pair of gloves to do the work.
If they give us a bill for $1,989, that's all they get. Okay.
Move the question.
All those in favor? 7-0. All right. Thank you.
Good deal.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a report on the small area plan process, as we have all of our Connie and Peter.
Okay, so I will start. We just had our January 22nd on this past Saturday, the virtual community design workshop that Office of Planning put together from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There were about 154 people who showed up, but 24 of whom were part of either OP or Link, the facilitator, or some other individuals from Cunningham Quill Architects. And that session think most of the groups felt like I mean, at least the ones I sat in, other people I talked to felt it was pretty productive to go over and talk to each other. But some of the criticisms I heard were that people really hope for the ARC GIS kind of tool where you could say, can it be a little bit broader, shorter, like for it to look different? The massing itself, it just seemed like blocks. It was really hard to visualize. A lot of it was bird's eye view, not street level. Other emails I got, I received after said that people wanted to see landlords who are on Connecticut Avenue show up, business owners, like the whole community, and that people really wanted to have more time. Now, OP has said to us that they will hold 2 community office hours. Peter, I don't know if you remember the dates. I don't have the dates exactly in front of me.
Right after the hearing, right after the.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get them.
Yeah, let me just, I will find it in 3 seconds, but there's 2 2-hour office hours that OP will hold at the public library. So upstairs on the 2nd floor, I believe. They will be there to take any questions from the community about the small area plan and so forth. And there will be a design survey that I think it should have come out today, and it'll be 2 weeks long. For anyone who participated in the workshop can also take the survey, and anyone who wasn't able to make it can take that survey, so that more of your ideas maybe post the Jamboard. They call it the Jamboard app session. They're going to post that up on their website, but any ideas that have that you've come up with post meeting, they'll be able to take. So I really do encourage the community to do that. But I thought maybe we should discuss a little bit more about what we think we should do with this design workshop, which I think it didn't meet everyone's expectations. I think it looked more like a visioning workshop that they conducted last spring. It wasn't truly a design charrette that I've never participated in, but I've heard a lot about. Usually multi-day, usually multi-hour, should be all day long probably. But I think Omicron, the COVID, has really put a kink into a lot of processes and systems, and I think it's just been difficult. But I don't think that's an excuse. So, Peter, why don't you go ahead? We'll switch on and off and keep talking.
Actually, I agree with Connie. I think we need to have a discussion, and perhaps we could do it right now. There was a lot of goodwill at the 2-hour workshop. There were a lot of good ideas, but it had the entire look, feel of a community starting, not finishing, a planning process. We have a lot of disagreements among ourselves about this, but we've tried for a whole year to push OP to, one of the good things about the plan is that there were actually at least some senses, pictures that gave you senses of volumes and so forth. Would have been great if we had it at the beginning. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is either do we, as a commission, ask OP to do a more thorough job between now and March, or 2, assuming that OP won't do that, and Connie and I were at a small area plan community advisory committee, which we both sit on representing the ANC. And I asked the question about whether there could be further workshops or charrettes, and the answer was no. If that is OP's position, I think that we need to discuss how we prepare, keeping an open mind, but how we prepare to make public comment, because in OP's agenda, the next step and the sort of last step for us, where we as a community can engage, is when OP comes back with a draft plan, and there's a 30-day comment period after that. If we can't get OP to do further sessions, one thing we could do is say, okay, we're going to really prep to be ready. Maybe they'll come back with a brilliant document, but it does feel like we're still at the beginning of the process and not at the end. And so I leave it to the commissioners to react to what we saw. And I don't know what the sentiment here is in this commission about what we should do about it.
So hold that thought. Dee Smith was kind enough in the chat to tell us the 2 community office hours dates that OP has set. So Thursday of this week, January 27th, from 12:30 to 2:30 at the library. And then the following Thursday, February 3rd, from 5 to 7 p.m. So those are the 2 dates that they've put up. And I would like for us to discuss it. I mean, many of us were there. We attended the community design workshop. So what are your thoughts?
Lisa?
Lisa's her hand up.
Lisa?
Yeah, so, I was disappointed because first of all, I really did want to go in person to deal because there was a young lady in the community that I met at the mayor's announcement for affordable housing in Chevy Chase. And she had interest in architecture and we were going to go together. So I'm really disappointed that we didn't get to do that. I do think that the virtual form, breaking us up into the small groups, could have gone very well. We just did not have enough time. Most groups probably didn't have enough time to get through their slides. I almost think that, maybe breaking it out and keeping those groups together over a period of time to kind of work through the slides would have been a better way to do it. And I'm really disappointed that OP is not offering another session. It is just way inadequate to have one session like that where we didn't get, a chance to complete everything that we were tasked to do for something of this magnitude. I'm really disappointed in that. And I'm with you, Peter. I'm not sure what the course is forward to voice that. I mean, we could obviously do a resolution or we could have a meeting, but we spent a lot of time with OP to try to, work with them to get this right. And it's just really disappointing that it turned out this way.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention my breakout session, we did finish, but what was disappointing to me was you couldn't hear all the other breakout sessions, what they came up with, because you ran out of time. So that bigger conversation didn't happen.
Exactly.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Randy.
Yeah, I was very, very disappointed too. This was, I've been to design charrettes before and I've been to them in person and they worked really well. But you need more time. You need better visualization. And one of the things that really concerned me, I don't think their consultant did a very good job at all. I think just doing the massing of buildings is not enough. You've really got to have some architectural features. We've talked a lot about making the architecture look like it belongs in our neighborhood.
Right.
We got none of that, zero. And we didn't get any views from ground level, which I think was essential. And we mentioned that before, that we needed something at ground level. So you get a perspective, how tall are these buildings going to look if you're standing on the street? And so it was a big disappointment to me. I thought we didn't have nearly enough time. And someone mentioned to me, someone who's very experienced in doing these charrettes said, it wouldn't have been unreasonable to take 2 days on this if we had the basis for doing it. I think the consultant they didn't even come up with recommendations for all of the spaces that where they're going to have. They had a recommendation for the space behind the PNC Bank, for instance, that parking lot, but nothing behind the CVS or any of the other parking lots on that side of the street.
Or the Exxon station and that whole.
None of that was there. And it looked to me like they ran out of time or money or both to be able to do something that was really significant that would have helped us more. So I was very, very disappointed in it. I share Connie's observation that this was more like the visioning session that we've had previously. And it really didn't take us any further than we had then. And a lot of the comments that people were making were exactly the same comments that have been made in the visioning sessions. We didn't seem to have moved the ball forward at all.
Right. And I want to add, the other thing I want to add is that we haven't had a chance to talk about like overcrowding of schools, transportation, streetscape, like the other things that it's supposed to be a part of the small area plan. That
Right.
wasn't a part of it. And I thought we might, like, I don't know. I 2 hours is too brief, frankly. So I
Yeah.
think going into it, I think as we got closer to the date, there were a few of us who said, oh my God, really 2 hours? I mean, when I first saw 2 hours, I thought that was just too brief. And then when I looked at it again, I was like, this is truly too, I mean, I've held other workshops in my own consulting life. You never can get anything done in 2 hours. You need at least 3.5 to like wrap it up. So,
It's
I
especially
think,
if you're doing it virtually too. Virtually
yeah,
makes it.
and right. And one more thing I want to say is that it's a lot of people didn't understand that this wasn't like the city's plan. This was just to help us think through like what might happen and like what are our ideas, but what we want to have happen, like what do we want to see these buildings kind of like house in terms of like businesses or people, and people were very confused like during the intro part of it. I saw. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Well, I think we've consensed that theirs was a failure. So I don't know that we need to continue to discuss that theirs was a failure. The question that I have is, what do we do about it?
Got it.
Yeah.
Chaz, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think I was in the same group with Connie, but the thing that I've worried about is I don't know that anybody in our group, what the details are of a small area plan is very unclear. So these design issues you were raising, Randy, it's not clear how much of those actually can be addressed by a small area plan or a zoning rule, which is what actually puts teeth into the small area plan, as opposed to other options that cities have used to worry about not just the massing and the setbacks and that sort of stuff, but also the look and feel. And that's what I think a lot of people are nervous about.
SAP does include look and feel. It really does. And if you look at some of the other SAPs that have been done, they have more architectural feature kinds of things. And that to me is just essential in our neighborhood. Peter?
So it seems to me we have sort of three options. We could, by resolution or letter, signed by all of us, say to OP, nice try, but let's do it right or better. Please have other sessions and change your calendar. We could simply take self-help and say, we get ready for a really robust public comment. That's a hard thing to do given our February is going to have 5 meetings in it already on other issues. Or we could do nothing. Maybe each of us takes self-help. I mean, absent some action by this body, I think I'm going to start writing more about this on the listserv, just because of this confusion, because we have been involved in this closely, but a lot of people, there were a lot of new people, and this was a good thing about this. There were a lot of new people, but they were so clearly new, and the fact that we'd gone over a lot of this before was not there. I mean, maybe we just do self-help, and we try to encourage. We try to say, this is really important. It's really going to make a difference. Here are some of the flaws. Here are some of the things you can think about, blah, blah, blah. And we sort of do this personal education. I don't know. I think Michael's right. We agree it wasn't good. What do we do?
I don't think it was a full failure, because I felt, at least Chaz and my group, they were very engaged people, right?
Yeah,
but it's not comprehensive, and I feel like it's missing another meeting just to address some of these other issues that we're supposed to address in a small area plan. I mean, at the very least. So I would like for us to perhaps write a letter and say that, I mean, the architects, I thought that they were going to do a lot more. I thought the reason we waited so long for those consultants was that we would sit there and they would be able to, like, at the ready, like we could say as a group, like, could you change this thing? And it didn't happen, And I was just kind of surprised by that. that it didn't happen. And I mean, I think we asked that, Peter. I think I asked that question at the CEC, the 8th meeting, like just a few days before the 22nd. And we were told no. And I was like, okay, but I figured like maybe I'll see something kind of different. And then when we got there, they did have more examples of like what the Chevy Chase Community Center and Library would look like as a campus. And they, you know, turned things around and stuff, but it was not enough. It just wasn't enough. And that's the disappointment, was we had such high expectations. So what do you think, Randy, as chair? You know, Lisa, you're vice chair. What do you guys think we should do? A letter back to OP,
let's-
asking for them
Lisa, please
to
go ahead, your hand up.
think through?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I thought you were having your
John-
hand up. Yeah, John, what do you think?
John?
Well, I did not attend that meeting, and the last thing I participated with seems like years ago was a design and visioning thing. And if we're not beyond that, that's very disappointing. So I don't know what to recommend. But I think whatever we do, we can't just ask for another meeting or another 3 meetings or whatever it is. I think we have to be very specific about what we are asking for in terms of designs and actual visualization. And yeah, is the Exxon station even going to be there in 20 years or whatever? We need to. So you guys are the ones who are following it the most, but I just think asking for another meeting without being very specific about what the content of that meeting to be is perhaps not appropriate. So I would just recommend putting our heads together and getting some specificity out of what we're asking for, because it seems to me in the past, if we haven't been specific, we haven't gotten a response. We've got to be really targeted in what we're asking for.
Can I make an offer, which is that I would be happy to talk to a few architects about, or planners about what one asks for when one asks for the kinds of interactive 3D models that we're talking about in the Maret case for Connecticut Avenue.
Mhm.
And so once I get the verbiage down, I could draft a letter that I would send around to everybody to say, what if we asked for this? And we let people, we make it publicly available, and people can move through it and query it. The same kind of things that the people who have doubts or questions about the Maret proposal are seeking. I mean, this is the main street of our community. If Maret can do it for 5 acres, why can't the city do it for whatever the acreage is? But I mean, our main street, you know.
Just a few streets. Yeah.
Michael?
Well, I guess the question that I have is one of tactics, which is we could write OP a letter. We could pass a resolution. They have from the beginning, I think, been less than forthcoming about all of this stuff. But do we go beyond that? Do we escalate it? Do we send a letter to the mayor? Do we write a letter to the Washington Post? I mean, are we advantaged by applying more pressure as opposed to just asking them, oh, would you please do this for us? You know, Peter can get all the language he wants from the architects about 3D this, 3D that. And we're again asking them, would you please do this? As opposed to us saying, you have failed in your obligations to this community, and something that's more, you know, sort of attention getting from the mayor, because the mayor is concerned about this. She's honestly concerned about this. And I think that it would behoove us to tell the mayor that this community is dissatisfied with the process, that we're this far into the process and this is where we are. And can she please intervene to help facilitate the types of outcomes that we're looking for? So that's something like that is what I'm wondering.
Can I suggest a sort of intermediate step that we could do, I think, immediately? Is there another CAC meeting scheduled?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
What I would suggest is that we arrange a meeting with OP, not just Erkin, but the top level
Mhm.
people up to the interim director, acting director. And we expressed to them in no uncertain terms our disappointment. And that can be followed up with a letter, but I think we may learn something in that process. We may learn that about budget constraints or something like that, or whatever it is. But if it's a budget constraint, that we perhaps have a different ask from them. But we need to. I would suggest that we just talk to them first before we send a letter, and talk to them this week. And pardon?
That's fine. That would be great.
Yeah, we've done it before.
I just-
Like we've reached out before. Mhm.
And at least before we start putting things down on paper and creating a record and all of that, I think Michael's right that if we don't get a satisfactory response, then we pull out all the guns. But I think the first step is to at least give them an opportunity to explain themselves and tell us, why did you do it the way you did? And why can't you do something better? And then we'll learn what we should include in our letter, but not only just the specifications for what we should ask for specifically, but also address some of their excuses for not doing it right.
So Randy, do you want me to take that? I mean, or do you want somebody else? I mean, you and John are out straight on
Yeah.
we've got to do some division of labor here. So
Yeah. I'd be glad to participate in a meeting, but if you want to
Me
take
too.
okay,
Started.
Yeah.
I will reach out to LP and say
Okay.
we really want it. The ANC wants a meeting and we would like it this
Yeah.
week. And we are disappointed and we want to see what we need to figure out for ourselves a path forward. And we were willing to talk to you first about that, to try to convey where we saw the deficiencies. And you
Right.
can tell us
Yeah.
what you feel about it.
Yeah, and I think-
I'll vet
and-
the note with all of you before I send it. So
Yeah, and
Sounds
I
good.
think the key thing, Peter, is that it was abbreviated, and even in the small breakout groups, people didn't get enough time to go through it. And certainly in a larger group, we never really heard what other people came up with. So we couldn't even kind of grapple with it as a larger group. So just the way it was structured, I think, is problematic. And of course, then what you were saying about like the 3D modeling. I mean, this is not to say that the most important thing here is that we're trying to allow people to like react to something, right? So the architect is supposed to allow us to react versus like, what do you want to see? And you can't really imagine it. You know the things that you want, but you can't see. So they were trying to do that, but it wasn't enough and it wasn't good enough. And I think that's what we want to report back to them. Certainly that's what I've been hearing.
I'll take responsibility for getting.
Okay.
All right, Peter, great. Thank you.
you.
Let's just briefly respond to the chat comment from Michelle. She said that, are we advocating for building on every parking lot? Just to make it very, very clear, the SAP doesn't advocate for building anything. We're not advocating that any of it should be built necessarily, but what we're saying is, and what the SAP says, is if something is going to be built,
Right.
this is the kind of thing it ought to be.
Right.
And there may be nothing built on Connecticut Avenue other than the library and community center for 20 years. We don't know. But and a lot of this sort of infill development may not ever happen. But because it's all on private property, it's all going to be the decisions of private owners.
Right.
But what we're saying is, if they're going to build something, this is what it ought to be.
This is what the
And
community wants.
This is
Right.
what the community wants it to
Right.
be. And
Right.
that's the advantage of the small area plan, is that it gives us that hook to say, here's what the community wants. And developers, property owners, if you're going to build something, we want you to do it within these parameters.
Right.
Um,
And the SAP is part of that zoning commission review. I mean, they
Right.
will look at that. Right.
Exactly. And so that's why this process is important. It's not that any of this is going to be built tomorrow or maybe even 20 years from now. But if they're going to, this is the considerations they should have.
Right. And like you mentioned earlier, Randy, like other SAPs have had more detail. Like, how are we going to get those details if we don't actually go through the process? I mean, I think that's the question, right? How
Yeah.
are we going to get there? How is OP going to get there if they don't have the data and so forth? So
Right.
we like more done, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for the conversation.
Okay. and
Peter,
we-
I'm happy to help you with the letter. If you want to send me a draft, I'm happy to look behind you.
Will do.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you just call up the people at OP and say, we want a meeting. That's the easiest way to do that, I think.
Okay.
I'd call. Okay, the next item on the agenda is reports on the Racial and Social Equity Standing Committee. We had a meeting on the 18th. Lisa, you want to report on where we stand with that?
Yeah, so we had our meeting on the 18th, and it was a relatively short meeting, but quick to the point. One of the things we talked about was getting a meeting together with the Director of Racial Equity, who is Dr. Hewitt. And I believe Ron Kahn had reached out to her regarding the racial incident reporting system, and she was interested in having a discussion with us about that. And to see if there's any common interest that she could help out. So we divided ourselves into, I believe, 3 committees, Randy?
Right.
And Ron is going to have a sub meeting prior to scheduling something with Dr. Hewitt to try to get an agenda together and some common points. Other than that, we talked about the committees. We stressed to the committee members that me and Randy really need committee members to, step up and oversee the 3 subcommittees so that we could continue with some of the work that we're doing on the ANC and just keep up with our personal lives. So they are doing that.
Really?
There's a couple of them that are starting to schedule meetings amongst the committee. So I'm really happy to see that. So I think that will help move some of the work along and get us to a point where we're reporting out something a lot more substantial. That was pretty much about it. I don't have anything else. One of the committee members did provide an email from the Deputy Mayor of Housing. I believe there was a workshop or meeting series that they were having on January 25th. I'm not sure if anyone attended that, but we did get that. Anything else, Randy, that I'm missing?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Our next meeting, if we stick with the 3rd Tuesday, I believe will be on February the 15th. And Randy, can you continue to send out links for that? Because I can't do it on my Zoom account.
I can do that. Yes.
Okay. And we'll post that link. We'll send that to you, Connie, so that it's available for the public.
Yeah, let me know. I'll put that right up.
Thank you.
All right.
And if
Thank
you
you.
guys take minutes, or anything, you
No.
could also give that to me and I could also post that up. If you do it, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Letting you know.
We are
Lisa,
not
come on, stop
taking
doing it.
Lord, no.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the discussion and possible vote on a resolution requesting funding in the FY 2023 budget for a feasibility study to create a senior wellness center in Ward 3. And Yamir mentioned earlier on about the need to get comments in about the budget to the mayor. And so this is one element of it. It's an important one for us. I got an email today from someone who indicated that Chairman Mendelson is also interested in this and getting a senior wellness center in Ward 3. And so it is important, I think, for us to get on record with a resolution. Some of the other ANCs in Ward 3 are already considering or have even passed similar resolutions. But the one that we've drafted and proposed and we're going to consider at our last meeting was basically focused on our long advocacy for a senior wellness center in Ward 3. And there are just lots and lots of reasons for doing that. The other, there are 6 wards that have senior wellness centers. Ward 2 and Ward 3 do not. We have, nevertheless, the highest proportion of seniors in Ward 3 of any ward in the city. And we really sort of felt neglected as a result of that. There's been a very good program run by Around Town DC that has a virtual set of programs for seniors, which has been very helpful during the pandemic, particularly. But really, they need a place where they can gather and socialize, and they can get wellness information and attention. There are just a lot of reasons for having a senior wellness center in Ward 3 so that the seniors here can access it more easily. Our resolution goes through the history of what we've advocated in the past. It points out particularly that 58% of DC's older residents live alone, and they really need a place where they can interact with other seniors, and the Wellness Center provides that kind of meeting place. It also provides exercise programs, other kinds of things, some of which were done at the community center, but it's a lot more than that. If you look at the city's planning efforts right now, obviously there are a lot of things going on in a number of areas, not only our small area plan, but in Cleveland Park and Woodley Park and in Friendship Heights. All of those neighborhoods are now going through extensive planning analysis, and it's a ripe time for them to be considering, for the planners to be considering a senior wellness center, brick and mortar senior wellness center for our ward. And there's even the Lisner home, that expansion there might have a capability of adding a senior wellness center, and that's on the docket for the zoning commission coming up very soon. So based on this really persistent and acute need for a physical wellness center, we're urging that the budget in 2023 include basically enough money for a feasibility study to find the best location. I mean, it may not be in our immediate neighborhood because we're at the very edge of Ward 3. It may be that they need something that's more centrally located, but those kinds of things need to be studied and analyzed. And so we're recommending that at least $100,000 be included in the budget for that purpose, and that the study should be coordinated with ongoing planning efforts that the Office of Planning is doing. Chaz?
I can't remember, Randy, did our resolution address having them look at the transportation options as well? You know, if
It did
it's,
not specifically, but maybe that would be a good thing. Yeah, we can do that. I can add that.
I just think
I know. I know a good place to do it.
It can be a great center, but if you can't get there.
Right. And one of the things we've been talking about with our community center is that, and the library, is that we definitely have to have parking there, because a lot of seniors are not going to be able to ride their bikes there or hike there or whatever. They're going to need a place to park. So
John has his hand up.
John?
Oh, I think the need is pretty obvious, and I'm glad Amir is still on the call, because when he was talking about the lack of an outlet for COVID materials,
Yep.
It's a classic need that could be fulfilled by a senior center in
Yep.
a neighborhood.
Yep.
I'd just like to point out an interesting use of language. Randy repeatedly talked about they. I think 5 of the 7 of us qualify as seniors. Just saying. If it worked for Connie and Lisa, we'd be all, and then we'd probably have to recuse ourselves. So
I'm declaring a conflict.
This is our self-interest. Connie?
I do think it's important, and I think that for seniors to go to a center where, if they go regularly, for those who work at the center to observe them, and if there's any kind of physical change or mental change, that's really invaluable,
Yeah.
And if you're stuck at home and all you're doing is maybe going to the grocery store, it's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the city has to recognize that. So a feasibility study is perfect, because I'm hoping in that study they'll look at the census tract. They'll see how many people are of a certain age and where they are and how to centrally locate this center, and also what kinds of programming is really necessary and important. And especially now when a lot of people are at home and they aren't going into an office. And so we're all around. So how do we see each other more? Like, how do we try to safely and all of that and be able to partake in this kind of programming? But I do just want to make a little pitch. Is not just a senior wellness center, but we really don't do enough for teenagers here. There's not a lot of places for teenagers to go. So I know this is not the resolution we're talking about, but I still want to say that. And it's not because I'm closer to being a teenager than I am to being a senior citizen, but I do think that we don't really think about that demographic enough in our area.
You have an almost teenager at home too, though. So
I have a 19-year-old who's, she's in college and she comes
Right.
home, and then I've got the 12-year-old, and it is just the case. Where do they go? They walk to Broad Branch Market, they go to Starbucks, but there's really hardly a place that they really can go and be, maybe except for the library. And I know that the community center is outfitting a teen room, and perhaps we'll have programming, and it cannot come too soon. It needs to happen for our teens as well. Okay.
Okay, I would move that we adopt the resolution with the modification that Chaz suggested for adding transportation to it. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Yes.
7-0. Okay. The next item is discussion and possible vote on testimony at the council's oversight hearings for the Department of Energy and the Environment. We had some other agencies that were possibilities, but I think we didn't have enough to say, perhaps, or no one was really enthusiastic about preparing testimony. But I prepared testimony on the Department of Energy and the Environment, and so I would urge the commission to support that testimony and adopt it as the commission's testimony. The hearing is tomorrow, and so that doesn't give us much lead time. But what it focuses on is an issue that our commission has been advocating on for a number of years, and that is the replacement of lead service lines in DC Water's system, and specifically the program that is now front and center in the administrations of the national administrations, the Biden administration's plans for replacing lead service lines across the country. The amount of money that is likely to be allocated to the district from the infrastructure bill and from a few other sources from the federal government probably won't be nearly sufficient to do all the work in DC. There are going to be about 30,000 lead service lines that are going to have to be replaced. And the objective is to do that by 2030. I have been, as all of you know, I was appointed by the council to be the public representative on a task force consisting of people from DOEE, DDOT, DCRA, and then the two public representatives to look at DC Water's plan for how they're going to do this by 2030 and how they're going to use the money that's available. And one of the problems that we've been having, those of us, the two public representatives, is DC Water has just not been giving us enough information to be able to really assess their plan. And so one of the purposes of this is DOEE has been doing a terrific job. They're chairing that task force, and Kenley Farmer, who is the chair from DOEE, is doing a really good job, I think. But we're still getting pushback from DC Water. And I want to alert particularly Mary Che, the chair of the Committee on Transportation and the Environment, that this is a concern, that in order for our task force to do a good job, we're going to have more information from DC Water. They've got to be much more forthcoming. So the purpose of this testimony is really to raise that issue with the committee, with Mary Che, who appointed the public representatives, to let her know that we we would like to have more enthusiastic support from DOE, and especially when the federal money finally begins to come to the city, we want to make sure that DOE has a major role in distributing that money, that it doesn't just go directly to DC Water without any city oversight. The oversight from the city is really crucial. So this is more than anything else, just putting the committee and the council on notice that these are the concerns that we continue to have. And we hope that we can get some help from the council on that. Any questions or comments or suggestions, Peter? No? Okay, I would move, Connie?
No,
Okay.
let's move forward.
Okay. I would move that we adopt the testimony for presentation at tomorrow's hearing. Second. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for drafting it.
Okay, that's another thing that is eating up all my time these days, is spending so much time on lead service lines.
Yeah.
The next is the item that I added to the agenda based on our at the beginning of the meeting, is the discussion and possible vote on testimony of the council's committee of the whole roundtable hearing tomorrow on vacant and blighted properties. This is another issue we've been involved in for some time, and called it to the council's attention. And Chairman Mendelson has been extremely interested in this. He's been interested in the vacant blighted properties we found in our neighborhood. And this hearing is, as they've couched it, invitation only. They've not just opened it up to everybody, but the chair has asked for specific people to come and testify. And one of those, he asked me to come just this week. So, or late last week. So he wanted to have an update on the vacant and blighted properties that we have looked at in our ANC. And also, I'm not sure that, I think he knows, Chairman Mendelson knows that Chuck Elkins, who's in commissioner in 3D, and I have been working on what we call a pilot program with DCRA to see if we could identify what the real problems are in its systems and come up with some recommendations for how they could fix it. And we have done that. Unfortunately, last fall, DCRA just basically backed out of the pilot and said, we've got enough information from you. We don't need anything more. We're going to do this work internally. And we never really got answers to a lot of the questions that we had about their data systems and how they train their inspectors, for instance, to determine which is a vacant property or which is a blighted property, what kind of standards that they used, what they use for exemptions. There's a process for getting an exemption if you have a vacant property, if you're under construction, or if you're about to sell the house or whatever. And so we never really got answers to all those questions. So I'm reporting to the committee of the whole that on what's happened at some of these properties. Some of them have done very well. At 2900 Military Road, which had been a real problem property, now is being completely rebuilt, and it's got a new owner. The new owner I've met with several times, and he's really taking it quite seriously, doing what looks like to be a very good job, and the construction is well along now, and that house is going to be back occupied before long. So that worked really well, and part of the impetus for doing that was that we finally got DCRA to categorize it as blighted, and that increased the taxes on it. And so the tax incentive really made some changes. There are a couple of other properties where things really did change because DCRA took a few little small steps. But then I've got another couple of properties where the owner is doing exactly what he's done for the last 5 or 6 years. And that is every time he gets threatened with being classified as vacant and having to pay the vacant property tax, he gets a construction permit, and the construction permit, he never does any work on it. It's just sitting there. And that's exactly what's happened in these two properties. Exactly what he's done in the past. And DCRA has done nothing about that. They've not even come out and inspected whether the construction work was going on. So that's the gist of the testimony, is that there's still lots and lots of things that need to be done to make this system work effectively. And Chuck Elkins is going to be testifying as well, and he's going to have a report on basically what happened with our truncated pilot program. Connie?
I think Lisa was first.
Oh, okay.
I just had a quick question. We had a participant that had her hand raised up, Karen Zuckerstein. I didn't know if she wanted to speak on the senior center in Ward 3. Karen, if you did want to say something, just raise your hand again.
Yes, Karen is very actively involved in this issue. I should have noted. I just noticed.
I saw her hand, so my apologies. I saw her hand and then it just got away from me.
I think she lowered her hand again, though. I'm not sure she wants to say it.
Yeah, she lowered it.
We got what she wanted anyway. She was very supportive of the resolution.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, Connie?
Randy, I wanted to make sure that you asked the committee on the whole what the Housing and Community Development Agency is doing about these vacant and blighted properties. There was like a program a few years back when I went on the website. It ended in 2019. There's no more data on converting the blighted and vacant properties into affordable housing. And I think that's really critical. I mean, we have some blighted properties, where we live. And it would be really good if we had a very good inventory of all those properties across the district. But, I'm thinking about Ward 3, I'm thinking about ANC 34G, and to be able to work with the city to turn it into, housing for families, who have, lower income families. I mean, why are we not doing that? They're just sitting there right now.
All of these properties are currently zoned for single family. All of the ones that are. So it would have to be single family home rather than any duplex or anything like that. So
yeah, and I mean, but we did talk about it in our information exchange session last fall with the Community Land Trust, where they have 3 single family homes in their portfolio, Douglas Community Land Trust, and I asked directly, would you be interested? Yes, we would. But of course, it's a money issue, but they're supposed to have money to do this. So I really think this has to be raised because we have stock. It's not about necessarily building new, but it's like using what we have. 100%. So why are we not being more efficient in using what we have and then figuring it out? I mean, why can't we do that? And I heard from someone else that yes, it's zone single family, but there are things that are created as a duplex, right? As long as you don't go past the footprint. I don't know. I feel like there's more that the city can do. I mean, you just got to do more, right? I mean, to be able to create it, right, Lisa?
There were federal housing programs too, Connie, a couple years ago. I think one of them might have been Dollar Homes. There's been a couple of HUD programs for this type of issue where homes like that are given to nonprofits for development. So I agree with you. And that's one of the things I'm preaching. We have a lot of stock out there that we need to find ways to use better. And there are some, I actually started researching that. There are some cities that have been looking at that and developing models for it. So, I mean, it's being done.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to learn more, and I would like to push the district to do more because it's not about building new, it's about using what we have. And we have plenty of houses that are just sitting there. So, and there's so many people who need homes. Why are we not doing something right now? So that's, if you could bring that up, Randy, at some point, I don't know. Please do that. Okay.
Peter?
Just an ancillary issue. I think we've talked about this before. I assume the city does not have similar penalties for vacancy for commercial properties.
No,
Are there any municipalities that do? I mean, the public spends a lot of money maintaining sidewalks, maintaining streets in front of places, and it would create a financial incentive on the other side of the equation that could drive, even if it doesn't drive to permanent leases, might encourage people to do some sort of temporary leases that make use of storefronts that otherwise leave areas like our main street looking pretty
yeah,
shabby. So there are nothing in the city. Yes.
I'm not aware of anything, no.
Have
Yeah.
you heard of it anywhere else?
I have not, but I've not researched it. No.
Yeah, I'm
Connie?
glad you brought that up because a constituent of mine, I haven't had a chance, Peter, to email, like CC you on this email, raised this issue about the American Diner. And I've noticed that there, the covering, the ceiling, there's a big hole. I noticed a broken glass on one of their windows. I mean, it has been sitting there for years and it's in a prime spot. What is happening? There's no incentive or there's no one interested. What's the issue going on there on that piece of land? We need to do something about that.
Does Gildenhorn still own that, Randy?
No.
You did.
His family sold it a long time ago, right after his death.
Should we
Okay.
vote? Are we voting on
Yeah.
this? Or
Yes,
did-
we are voting on this testimony, and I will try to raise those issues that Connie and Peter had just raised too with the chairman. I mean, I think he will be sympathetic to that. I mean, he's focused. He's got a DCRA in his sights right now, and that's where he's really focusing his attention. But these are other issues that are important as well. Okay, I would move that we adopt the testimony. For all those in favor? 7-0. All right. The final substantive item on the agenda is the postponed from our last meeting. It's really not very much to update. This is the report on strategy for the Community Center Library Affordable Housing Campus capital budget for FY 2023. I reported on this at our December,
No,
I think
the
December,
January 10th. No, that's December one, the
December meeting.
18th or
Uh,
whatever it was.
Right. And yeah, the 13th, because that was the day I'd met with the mayor that day, and I reported on what I had heard from her. And then after that was the meeting on the 16th, when the mayor came to the community center and library and made the announcement about affordable housing in Rock Creek West, and reiterated her support for the community center library affordable housing campus. And so I think everything is in place for the mayor's budget to include a consolidated effort to plan for and then begin the execution of the community center library affordable housing in FY 23. And what we need to do, I think, my recommendation is that we, right now, just wait to see what comes out in the mayor's budget, which will be the end of March. And that if that's what we want them to be doing, then we can testify at budget hearings in support of that. If it's not what we want them to be doing, if there's something we would like to change, then I think we go to the council and ask for those kinds of changes. But that's right now, all the feedback that I'm getting, all the comments from all the agencies is everybody's on the same page. They're not going to treat this as silos where each agency is dealing with it on their own. They're going to treat this as a common project and one that includes affordable housing. So the one thing I should emphasize as well is that this is all just the beginning of that process. This is going to require a long period. We spent, Connie it was on our task force on the community center before. And we're going to have to do something similar to that. We've got a lot of data and information about what people want for the community center. We don't have that for the library or for affordable housing, or exactly what these buildings are going to look like, how they're going to be configured. None of that is done now. And we have a lot of work left to be done. The commission is going to continue to be involved in this through all of fiscal year 23 and beyond, because that's going to be a very important process. Connie?
I guess I want to encourage somehow. I know that you just said the budget comes out at the end of March, but I think on the back end, with these different agencies, I want them to start thinking about having these conversations. I mean, I don't know when they're going to do that. I mean, there are budgets for the renovations for what?
FY23, October is going to be the earliest when they're going to be really focusing on this. And the mayor made it very clear too, that she thought they needed the small area plan before they could really start doing the more detailed work on it.
Well, what I'd like to see, what I would really like to see is, I don't think we've heard enough about the affordable housing component on the financing. And so maybe we can invite the director of the community housing, am I getting that right? The Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm searching for two words. Housing, right.
Trust fund.
No, not just them. Not just them. The Housing and Community Development Agency. Wasn't there the guy at the mayor's office who came? He was the director of that. Okay, so I think
different. I think.
But he has financing ability.
Well, it's really the deputy mayor and the Housing Production Trust Fund where the money is going to come from. The planning and economic development and the Housing Production Trust Fund. And the mayor said, the first thing they have to do is start getting a plan. There has to be some proposal that the Housing Production Trust Fund can then fund. So it's still, there are lots of things that need to be done on that. It's a long way off.
On that, well, we need to follow that very closely, because Housing Production Trust Fund is a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like what Lisa said earlier about, federal incentives and so forth. I think we got to look more broadly, frankly. I mean, we just can't. I mean, and if we don't start now, we won't know, and it's going to be just a scramble. So I'm just saying this to say, like, we should start thinking about how we can do that to bring these people.
Actually, doing something is still
right. It's still out, but if you start now, it's planting the seed and asking the questions and understanding everyone's role. And is there enough money? We need to know these things. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, as it's really top of my mind.
Financing is going to be really important in this. Really. Because the more financing we can get, the more subsidies we can get, the more affordable housing we can build.
That's right.
Correct.
That's the key.
Yeah. And
you got to have subsidies.
Exactly.
Okay, commission business. Peter, you want to move the adoption of the minutes?
Yeah, I just want to say, John, I need the list of panels. Particularly, I need Joe's name. He was the only person who appeared who didn't have a full name. And so I just don't know who it is. It's like, it begins with an F, and I think he was on the 4th panel. If you have your script which was a great backgrounder on the whole issue, electronically, you could send me that and I could insert that.
I actually pasted.
Peter, I have his name. It's Joe Forsey, Forsie.
F-O-R-S, Sam?
Sam I-E.
Okay. And
I don't know how I got that.
And then does anybody know what Frank Buckholt said? It was complete gibberish. I could not make out a single word.
I had a hard time hearing him as well.
What panel?
Frank was an opponent.
But I couldn't figure out what he was saying. anyways, if you can send me your stuff, your rules, I boiled down, but I didn't have John's stuff. And I'd rather, if you'd have it, it would be great. But otherwise,
Okay, so you got Joe's name, you need the script.
I need the script. Yeah, your backgrounder at the top of the event.
Right.
I had John's backgrounder and I pasted it in to the copy that I sent you.
Oh, okay. I haven't. Okay. Well, with these things cleaned up, I move that we approve the minutes for the December 1st, December 13th, and January 10th. Meeting.
All those in favor? 7-0. Okay. John, any checks to approve?
Checks to approve is a Verizon for $155.76. That's all we have.
All those in favor of approving that check? 7-0. Okay. Okay, Peter, the discussion and possible vote on a resolution on how commissioners will allocate responsibility for constituent concerns and respect commissioners' duty to represent their issues within their single member district.
Yeah, this is exactly the administrative resolution I offered, my first resolution as a new commissioner.
Yes.
And I think it's not non-controversial. It just essentially says we respect each of us respects the others' single member districts, and we'll consult with each other. We are doing so many multi-district things these days that it sounds a little foolish, but I think it's just etiquette. It's good etiquette, and I'd ask that the commission support it. Any discussion?
Any discussion?
No.
Michael?
You're still muted.
I know I had to find the mute button. It got shrunk. I'm happy to support this as I did last time, but I don't actually think it's needed. Peter, I think that into the second year of us working together, I think we pretty much figured all this stuff out. I thought it was really more important in year one when there were 5 new members. But you know, as I said, I'll vote for it. I just don't understand exactly why we need it in year 2.
Well, let me offer this as background. When I ran for the ANC, it did not escape my attention that 5 people were leaving the commission, and I did what any good reporter does, which is I called them up and asked if I could interview them, and most of them said yes. And this was an issue for them in one way or another for each of them. And these were people who had been on the commission. I don't think there were any freshmen. These were people who had been on the commission for some time. So I would argue that, you know, I mean, we may do really well and stick with the way we've been operating to date, but I don't see, I just would like to put it in writing and have us agree that this is what we're going to do. And if you'll support it, I'd appreciate that, Michael.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to vote for it. All I'm just saying is, I think that our track record has proven that we can work collegially, and across single member districts.
This
But
is not
if you want to put it in writing, in case I breach the contract, then you can run for my single member district in 2024.
Okay.
Michael, I assumed it was aimed at me, new guy, making sure I get it.
Yeah, it was originally called the chair's amendment. But we decided that it was too obvious. Yeah.
I'm kind of slow. Maybe you should have done that.
Okay.
I move the question. Can we have a vote on it?
Is there a second?
Come on.
All those in favor?
All in favor. Thank you.
7-0. Okay. Connie, you want to talk about the recruiting strategy for an executive administrative assistant, which we sorely need?
We sorely need this person. And I did speak to John about a week and a half ago, and John didn't receive really any applications, despite us hearing from Jerry Mellitz, who said that it was the link he had for this position was one of the highest clicks he's gotten on his newsletter, which is like, it was very surprising how many people clicked on it to view it. I have gotten a few through Facebook, but they don't stay there. There's no cover letter, and it doesn't seem quite appropriate because I posted on Facebook, and so Facebook just made it a job, position that was opened. We have sent it through the Northwest Neighbors Village. We've sent it. They were very kind to send it out in their newsletter. We have Jerry's newsletter, Chevy Chase Notes. We have the Chevy Chase Citizens Association sent it out recently. But I don't know if John wants to report if he's seen any new applications. They're supposed to be sent to you, but my feeling is you didn't get very many.
One.
Okay, you see, so it's failing.
I think I sent it to you, and so we have maybe what, 4 or 5? Total,
We have
possible.
we have very few, and so I'm trying to decide what we really should do. Should we send it out through LinkedIn? I have not done that. I can. The other option is I've been speaking to another commission about sharing an assistant, and if they are interested, then maybe we re-advertise it as a shared so that the hours would be more and maybe more people would be interested. It could be that there's such few hours and the pay isn't really high that we're not getting a lot of interest. I'm not really sure why this is.
Does the other ANC you're talking to have an assistant now, or
They don't have an assistant. They're looking for one. I think we would work well together, just right across, and Cleveland, I don't know if I'm in the right direction here in my basement study here, but they may be very interested, and I think that we would be able to maybe find someone a little better, and maybe mingling, not really mingling, but like if we had enough funds from each commission, that maybe we could pay this person a little bit more. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how we can get someone with the skill set that we want, which is social media skills, right? The ability to get on this website, wordpress.org, and be able to, create these pages and do everything that I'm doing now, but someone who's more expert could do it even better, and make any changes that is necessary, but also someone who could really follow along and care about what we're doing here so that we don't have to have a script. Like they could themselves put things out and would be fine because they're an executive administrative assistant. There's someone who has experience and can do that.
Well,
Michael?
have John, you received the application from LaPrent's Kit, and has anyone, I know he was the first one who sent it in. I know Connie and I have each spoken to him. He's a college student who applied, and I'm just wondering, it's been sitting there. I know I got an email from him weeks ago, which then was, I think, forwarded to you, John. I was just wondering if we have an applicant like that. I don't know his skills per se, but it's been sitting there. And has anyone interviewed him to determine whether or not he fits the bill?
No, in our process, we've said we will determine whether or not a candidate goes forward for an interview, because I don't want to tax us on people who are just not qualified. So based on a read of the resume, I think we can decide is this worthy of an interview. And we have not done that yet. So we should do that. It closes January 28th, which is the end of this week. And once it closes, we could reopen it again and try one more time. But I think all the people who've submitted, we should do something. We should make a decision.
Out to at least give them a feedback and tell them.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes,
we have
I
to
can-
do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Have we acknowledged the receipt of it and explained to them the process at all? Is it just you apply?
That's my responsibility. I'll get back to this person. I'm not so sure he has the qualifications that we're looking for, but as a courtesy, I definitely should
Yeah,
acknowledge
I don't
it.
know. I'm saying I'm not promoting his candidacy per se.
No,
I'm just saying,
agree.
I know I received it, and sometimes it's hard to know from a resume, whether they actually have the skills that we want. And if we only have 2 or 3 candidates, we might as well talk to them.
Yeah. Might want to talk.
Can I
will
suggest we
s-
talk about individual candidates in the administrative session?
Yeah, we should.
Please, let's do that.
Right, Chaz.
John, I will forward to you what I've received through Facebook, which was 3.
Okay, and you've got, I think I submitted, I think I sent mine over to you, but.
Right.
Whatever.
We can
Okay.
talk offline. We could talk after and make sure that we have all of the ones that we have so far.
Yep.
So any other bright ideas about
Well,
what to do moving
Could
forward?
pursue the possibility of sharing with another ANC because that
Okay,
gets
good.
I think we'll be better able to recruit somebody really good by doing that.
That's what I think.
I think, yeah, getting a critical mass will help.
And do we care about whether or not they live in our ANC, this area?
No, if they're good.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. Okay, because there might be someone who might be interested if there's a combined more than just our ANC.
And there's an ANC, Connie, can't recall which one it is that does share. I think there's
Yeah.
a couple of them that
For
share.
sure.
More
Yeah.
than one.
There's several that share.
I
I
think
got the
Georgetown
name of one.
shares with somebody.
Yeah, I got the one, Elizabeth Miller, who's the commissioner in Georgetown. I got hers, the one that she uses, but he does like 3 or 4. So it was mainly to call him to see how it's going with
Yeah.
sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have to say. There's not much to report. At the next meeting, we'll have something to report.
All right. Items for our next meeting on Valentine's Day. Hope you all have arranged with your significant others that you're going to be occupied that night. One is there's a possibility of hearing another presentation on the Lisner home and a possible vote. On that, Matt Fruman doesn't want to do that until after the 3E presentation and vote at that commission because that's where the Lisner home is located. And we certainly ought not to do anything before we learn what they're going to do. But Matt does want our support if we're willing to give it at the zoning commission. So, and you know, I thought it was a very good presentation he made. I think they made some changes with the design since then, though, that would be important for us to hear about. But that's contingent on his making the presentation and having it heard by 3E before February 14th, and I'm not sure he will. The next is the item that we postponed from today's agenda, and that is the public space permit to extend the existing alley that we talked about earlier. Next is a DDOT presentation on Oregon Avenue rehabilitation, the Oregon Avenue project, and its traffic safety investigation process, which Christian has asked to present on. And then the last item that I have is the discussion and possible vote on the public space permit, which is the curb cut on Nebraska Avenue for the Maret project. And this would be contingent on the BZA approval, so that it would only kick in if the BZA project is approved. But they are asking for the curb cut before the Public Space Committee, which I think is likely to hear this at the end of February before our next meeting in February on the 28th. So we would have to hear it on the 14th.
Okay.
They've modified their application. They're supposed to have the modified drawings and documents by the end of the day Wednesday. So I'll be sure that we get those out to everyone then. Chaz?
And I have one last item. That is, I want to note that the single citizen still participating in our meeting is a resident of my single member district. But I don't want to call him out by name lest he not be awake.
He's probably checking up on you.
He's also on
Okay.
the on the ANC redistricting panel.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
You know,
And-
Randy, I have to say, you've given Chaz a very bad impression of our ANC by ending this close to being on time. You have spoiled him now. He's gonna
Are
have
you kidding me?
expectations.
Well, we
Michael,
could make
his
this-
first,
Wait,
his
wait,
first
February's
meeting
coming
was-
up, February,
Oh, yeah.
5 meetings.
Sorry.
That's
Michael,
I've
his,
blocked that one out.
Yeah.
My
Michael,
next Zoom call is
Chaz's
in 9
first,
hours.
his first meeting with us was 4.5 hours long.
Four.
Yeah,
Four.
no, I
Or
take it all back.
17.
I take it all back.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
All right, thank you all.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so you, wait,
you.
you saved the chat, right? You did that, correct? We have that, right? All right,
Well, the chat comes to me. I can send it out.
good, 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 okay. All
Okay,
right, bye, everyone.
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.